You wake up outnumbered 5-1. 70,000 warriors stretch across the plain below you. Scythed chariots wait at their front lines, blades 3 feet long, designed to slice men into halves. The enemy cavalry dominates the field. Your commander stands on a hill in Boeotia, watching them form up. 15,000 Roman legionaries, one narrow valley, no way out except through them. Spring, 86 BC. This is Chaeronea. And what happens next breaks every rule of warfare you think you know. The valley between Mount Hedilium and Mount Acontium. The Cephisus River cutting through the middle. The Pontic army camps where Philip of Macedon once shattered Greek freedom 3 centuries before. General Archelaus commands forces drawn from 7 nations: Thracians, Scythians, Cappadocians, Bithynians, Galatians, Phrygians, Pontic troops from the Black Sea, each group led by their own commanders, all answering to Archelaus. The numbers historians argue about, but the range sits between 70,000 and 120,000 men. 60 scythed chariots in the center, cavalry on both wings, a phalanx of pikemen armed Macedonian style, freed slaves equipped as auxiliaries, bronze shields, elite units. This force already conquered Athens, already scattered Roman allies across Greece, already controls the sea routes. If you value documented ancient military history like this, subscribe. It's the best way to support our work. Also comment from which city you're hearing this from. This script is researched and factual, using sources from Plutarch's Life of Sulla, chapters 17 through 21, published in the 2nd century AD as part of his parallel lives, and Appian's Mithridatic War sections 42 through 45 from the 2nd century ADE, both drawing from Sulla's own lost memoirs written after the campaign, cross-checked with archaeological evidence including trophy fragments uncovered on a Soma hill in 1990 discovered by Greek archaeologists. Now back to the information. Lucius Cornelius Sulla, 138 BC to 78 BC, patrician birth, but his family knew poverty, burned with ambition, rose through the cursus honorum by sheer will, consul in 88 BC, 5 legions under his command, but Rome tears itself apart behind him. Gaius Marius and Lucius Cornelius Cinna seized power while Sulla fought in Greece, declared him a public enemy, confiscated his property, murdered his supporters in the Forum. Sulla knows if he loses here, there's no Rome to return to. If he wins but takes too long, Marius consolidates power. The pressure sits on him like the weight of the sky. March 1st, 86 BC. Athens falls. Sulla's men break through the walls. Slaughter in the streets. Aristian the tyrant dragged from the Acropolis and poisoned. The city burns. Piraeus destroyed completely. Archelaus escapes by sea with his army, heads north to Boeotia, joins a second Pontic army marching south through Thessaly. General Taxiles commands the reinforcements, brings tens of thousands more soldiers. The combined force camps in the valley near Chaeronea. Sulla pursues. His 5 legions trail Archelaus, approximately 15,000 infantry, 1,500 cavalry. Some sources claim 17,000 total, including allied Greeks who defected back to Rome once Sulla arrived. The legions hardened from the social war, veterans who know how to kill and how to stay alive. Sulla reaches Chaeronea in early spring, sees the Pontic camp stretched across the valley floor, flat terrain, perfect for cavalry and chariots. Death ground for infantry. Archelaus wants to break Sulla here. Taxiles pushed for immediate battle despite Archelaus preferring a war of attrition. With reinforcements this massive, Taxiles argues they can crush Rome's army in a single afternoon. Archelaus cannot refuse his co-commander. The valley traps both armies now. Once Taxiles brought his forces through the northern defile, retreat became impossible. Fight here or die here. Sulla takes position on high ground, hill of Philobiotis first, then moves to slopes of Mount Hedilium, looks down on the Pontic camp, studies the terrain. The narrow pass toward Chaeronea sits at his back. Following the Cephisus, southeast. The Acropolis of Parapotmi guards the pass entrance on the northern bank. Locals from Chaeronea send word they see Archelaus moving to cut off the town. Sulla responds by sending legate Gabinius with a legion, arrives in time to secure Chaeronea. Archelaus takes a position in the valley between Acontium and Hedilium, posts detachment on northern slopes of Mount Thurium. Sulla's main force follows Gabinius down the Cephisus Valley, sets up west of the Pontic camp on southern slopes of Hedilium. 1 day passes. Sulla refuses battle, studies angles, calculates distances, then moves south onto the plains. Leaves legate Marina with 1 legion and 2 cohorts to watch the Pontic camp from Mount Thurium. Sends another detachment south using local guides. They reach a position south of the Pontic troops on Thurium. Now the armies face each other across the valley. Archelaus sees Romans idle on the hill, thinks they fear his numbers, orders his men to begin foraging parties, pillaging the countryside, burning farms. Sulla cannot defend the region with his smaller force, stays camped on the hill, but he does not sit idle, orders his men to dig, entrenchments on both flanks to protect against cavalry envelopment, palisades in front to defend against the scythed chariots, wooden stakes driven into the ground at angles. The work serves two purposes: keeps soldiers disciplined, tires them out so they stop demanding immediate battle. When legionaries come to Sulla requesting to fight, he challenges them, says their sudden willingness to battle comes from laziness to work, tasks them with occupying the hill of Parapotami. The men agree. Race against Archelaus' soldiers to reach it first. Romans win. Secure the position, more terrain denial, more advantages stacked. The Pontic army finally musters for battle. Numbers beyond counting fill the valley. Armor flashes in the spring sun. Ranks surge and shift as they form up. Shouting echoes off the mountains. Plutarch describes it like a flaming fire, the din meant to terrify. Romans on the hill watch this display. Some younger legionaries pale. Veterans spit and check their gear. Sulla speaks to his soldiers. His voice carries, tells them to face the enemy with courage, reminds them these are the same soldiers who lost Athens, the same army that ran from Roman discipline before. He draws up the battle line, cavalry on both wings. Infantry in the center form deeper than usual due to the narrow valley. Sulla commands the right wing personally. Marina leads the left. Cohorts of reserves under Galba and Hortensius positioned on high ground in the rear, protecting against flanking movements. Another contingent sent above the enemy position on Thurium. Local guides lead them through hidden paths to high ground overlooking the Pontic camp. Battle begins with the Romans on Thurium. They appear over the hilltop, start hurling stones down on the Pontic detachment below. Panic spreads. The Pontic soldiers on Thurium flee down into the valley, crash into Archelaus' main lines. Disorder ripples through the formation. 3,000 Pontic casualties in that opening chaos. Archelaus responds fast, launches cavalry charge to stabilize, achieves little, then orders the 60 scythed chariots forward. The chariots, terror weapons when they build speed. At the Battle of Amnias in 89 BC, these same weapons sliced through the Bithynian army. Appian recorded men cut in two halves while still breathing, others shredded, organs hanging from the scythe blades. The sight alone broke Nicomedes' army. Archelaus hopes to repeat that horror. The drivers whip their horses, blades spin, chariots rumble toward the Roman lines, but Sulla robbed them of distance. By positioning on the hill and then advancing quickly once battle started, he closed the gap. Short starts mean no velocity. No velocity means no impact. The first chariots roll forward sluggishly. Romans burst out laughing. Actually laughing. They step aside. Let the slow chariots pass between their ranks like they're watching circus races. Call for more chariots. Clap and jeer. Behind the lines, Sulla positioned light infantry and javelin throwers. When chariots pass through the legionaries, these troops swarm them from behind. Pila rain down, crews killed, horses panic. Surviving chariots turn and crash back into their own phalanx. The feared weapon becomes a liability. The phalanx disrupts before infantry combat even starts. Now the infantry closes. Center engages. Freed slaves in the Pontic ranks armed as auxiliaries. Roman legionaries fight with terrible fury. Plutarch says they fought indignant at having to cross swords with slaves instead of free men. Uneven ground prevents the phalanx from achieving full charge. Field fortifications. The Romans built block clear paths. Pikemen struggle. Roman gladi work better in close quarters. Short stabbing swords versus long pikes in broken terrain. Advantage Rome. Archelaus tries to use numbers. Extends his right wing. Attempts to envelop the Roman left under Marina. Launches cavalry at Marina's position. The attack nearly succeeds. Marina's lines buckle. Sulla reacts. Sends Hortensius with 5 cohorts from the reserve to reinforce. Hortensius moves fast, but Archelaus anticipates. Isolates Hortensius. Surrounds his detachment. Real danger the Roman left crumbles. Sulla sees this from his position on the right wing. Has not engaged yet. Gathers his cavalry. Crosses from right to left. Dust cloud rises. Standards of the Roman commander visible through it. Archelaus spots the movement. Sees opportunity. Abandons his attack on Hortensius. Swings south to hit the now weakened Roman right. Sulla anticipated this too. Pivots. Heads back south with his cavalry. Takes 1 cohort from Hortensius. Takes 2 more cohorts from the reserve under Galba. Reaches the southern part of the battle before Archelaus arrives. Launches full attack while Pontic lines still disorganized. The Pontic left pushed back toward the Cephisus River. Meanwhile, Marina, on the opposite wing, gets reinforcements. The Bronze Shield's elite Pontic unit hits Marina hard. Legionaries under pressure. Sulla hears the calls for help echoing off the hills, sends Hortensius's force to Marina, leads his own unit and the 5th cohort back to his post on the right wing, finds his troops standing firm. His arrival breaks the Pontic assault. The right wing routs Archelaus' personal attack. In the center, Gabinius commands, leads the advance, slaughtering enemy troops. When Sulla sees both wings succeeding, he orders general advance. The entire Roman line pushes forward. The Pontic army breaks, complete rout. Soldiers flee toward their camp. Uneven terrain slows them. Romans pursue. Easy killing. The retreat becomes massacre. Only 10,000 Pontic soldiers escape from an army that numbered between 70,000 and 120,000 at the start. Ancient sources claim 110,000 casualties. Sulla reported 14 Romans missing at battle's end, 2 returned by nightfall. Claims only 12 Roman losses total. These figures obviously propaganda. Close-range infantry combat cannot produce such lopsided numbers. But the scale of defeat remains undeniable. The Pontic force suffered catastrophic losses. Archelaus hides in the swamps for 2 days, eventually escapes to Chalcis by sea. His army destroyed, Sulla erects 2 trophies on the battlefield. One on the plain near the Molos, where Archelaus' force is routed, another on Mount Thurium commemorating the dislodgement of the Pontic garrison. Plutarch and Pausanias describe these trophies. Archaeologists found fragments in 1991. Square base of whitish-gray marble, double rebate at bottom, torus molding on top, supported an unfluted column, probably crowned with stone sculpture of a panoply. Inscription on the base reads Homoloicus and Anaxidamus for their valor. Later, Sulla depicts these trophies on his coins, uses them for propaganda when he returns to Rome, but Chaeronea does not end the war. Sulla sets out for Thessaly, plans to meet Consul Lucius Valerius Flaccus coming from Italy. Sulla does not know Flaccus has orders to attack him, not join him. Rome's Senate sent Flaccus to replace Sulla as commander. Political enemies at home want Sulla stripped of glory. While traveling, Sulla hears reports Dorylaeus landed at Chalcis, brings sizable fleet transporting 80,000 of Mithridates' best troops, reinforcements for Archelaus. Sulla abruptly turns around, marches back to meet this new threat. Dorylaeus and Archelaus combine forces, 90,000 men, maybe more. Sources vary. The army camps at Orchomenus on a large open plain in Boeotia, flat terrain, perfectly suited for cavalry and chariots. Archelaus' confidence returns. After initial skirmish with Sulla's advanced troops, Dorylaeus suggests strategy of attrition, wear Romans down slowly, but Archelaus sees the terrain advantages, pushes for another pitched battle. The flat ground favors his superior cavalry. He wants revenge. Autumn, 86 BC. Sulla recognizes the danger. The plain gives every advantage to Pontic cavalry. He orders his men to dig again, 10-foot-wide trenches to protect flanks. While Romans work, Archelaus attacks the diggers, fierce fighting. 15,000 Pontic casualties in the engagement. Romans hold their positions, complete the trenches. Next day, Romans begin digging trenches around the Pontic camp. Attempting to surround them, cut them off, Archelaus attacks to prevent this. But the Pontic assault gives Romans opening to storm the camp. Battle intensifies. Sulla's men panic at one point, start breaking for safety. Sulla makes his stand on the earthworks, personal leadership, bellows to wavering troops, his words recorded by Plutarch. Orchomenus, remember the name. I'm ready to fight and die here. When people ask you where you ran away and left your general, tell them, at Orchomenus. His words work. The retreating legionaries turn, fight. The line holds for his final assault. Archelaus draws up formal battle array. Scythed chariots in front, Macedonian-style phalanx behind them. Auxiliaries in third line, including Italian deserters. Men who expect no mercy if captured by countrymen. Fight with desperation. Cavalry massed on flanks, though earthworks limit effectiveness. Sulla arranges his army in 3 lines, spaces between files, gaps where light infantry and cavalry can rush through, front line denser than rear troops. The formation looks strange. When scythed chariots attack, the reason becomes clear. Roman front ranks open up, step backward, reveal rows of stakes driven into ground at sharp angles, pointing outward. Some chariots impaled, others brought down by pylon barrage. Surviving chariots panic, bolt toward their own lines, crash through the phalanx, create chaos in Pontic ranks. Sulla orders general advance. Archelaus tries saving his phalanx. Charges with cavalry to buy time for pikemen to reform. Sulla foresaw this. charges Pontic cavalry with his own vastly outnumbered horsemen. Roman cavalry spoils the Pontic charge, joined quickly by advancing legionaries. Romans repulse Pontic cavalry, charge the still reforming phalanx. The phalanx panics, runs. Sulla advances on Pontic camp, begins siege. Romans pull down section of ramparts. Junior officer named Basilis leads legionaries pouring into camp. Close quarters fighting. Roman short swords have distinct advantage. Pontic soldiers trapped against marsh behind the camp, nowhere to run, massacre. Sulla decorates Basilis for courage, then punishes Boeotia for treachery. Destroys 3 Boeotian towns, Anthedon, Dorimna, Halae. Later meets fishermen from Halae who give him fish, tells them he's surprised and he survived, lets them go, tells them not to worry. People of Halae inspired to repopulate their town. The double victory at Chaeronea and Orchomenus ends Pontic invasion of Europe. Archelaus escapes again, but his army is destroyed. When news reaches Mithridates, he instructs Archelaus to open peace negotiations. The king has problems elsewhere. Rival Roman army under Fimbria operates in Asia Minor. Fimbria murdered consul Flaccus, took command, conducts successful campaign against Mithridates' forces. Battle of Rindicus. Fimbria kills 6,000 Pontic cavalry. Launches night attack. Completely destroys Pontic army. Prince Mithridates barely escapes. Meanwhile, Sulla's legate, Lucullus, returns from eastern Mediterranean with fleet. Spent over a year raising ships from allies. Lost most to pirates initially. Eventually gathered forces from Cyprus, Phoenicia, Pamphylia. Spring 85 BC, his fleet combines with Rhodes, drives Pontic forces from Caucasus, Cnidus, Colophon, Chios. Wins naval battle off Lectum in the Troad. More important, victory at Tenedos. Lucullus makes contact with Sulla, ready to transport Sulla's army into Asia Minor. Sulla and Archelaus meet at Delian on Boeotian coast, late 86 BC. Initial peace talks. Archelaus offers money to fund Sulla's war against political enemies in Rome. Mithridates keeps Asia in exchange. Sulla refuses. Demands Mithridates restore kings of Bithynia and Cappadocia. Surrender all conquests. Pay 2,000 talent indemnity. Maybe 3,000. Sources differ. Release Roman prisoners. Give 70 warships to Sulla. Maybe 80. In exchange, Mithridates receives title of friend and ally of Rome. Keeps his original kingdom. Archelaus agrees to present terms, but will not do it personally. Sends messengers to Mithridates, stays with Sulla. Negotiations continue for months. Fimbria's successes in Asia Minor combined with Lucullus's naval victories pressure Mithridates. He cannot win on 2 fronts. Cannot defeat both Roman armies simultaneously. Final meeting takes place at Dardanus on Troad coast. Late summer or early autumn 85 BC, Sulla crosses to Asia at Abydos thanks to Lucullus's fleet. Mithridates requests personal meeting, wants appearance of negotiated settlement between equals, not dictate imposed by Rome. Sulla arrives with 5 cohorts. Mithridates brings 26,000 men. Historians identify these as survivors from Battle of Rindicus. Mithridates formally accepts Sulla's terms, reconciles with Nicomedes and Ariobarzanes. Kings of Bithynia and Cappadocia present at ceremony. Treaty of Dardanus returns situation to status quo of 89 BC. Mithridates retains kingdom, no Pontic city sacked during war, keeps possessions in Black Sea. Senate never ratifies treaty, too lenient, but Sulla needs to return to Rome, political situation deteriorating. Marius died January 14th, 86 BC, early in his 7th consulship. But Cinna still holds power with Gnaeus Papirius Carbo. Proscriptions continue. Important Romans flee to Sulla's camp, including his wife Metella and their children. Sulla must return or lose everything. What made the victories possible? First, veteran legions. Sulla's 5 legions fought in social war before Greece, experience accumulated to levels seldom reached before. Later Roman armies with less experienced troops fared much worse against Pontic forces in subsequent Mithridatic wars. Second, terrain exploitation. Sulla refused battle until he controlled high ground. Forced Archelaus to fight on unfavorable terms. At Chaeronea, he used hills to deny chariots their speed. At Orchomenus, he used trenches to neutralize cavalry advantage. Third, field fortifications, palisades and stakes against chariots. Trenches against cavalry, earthworks for protection. Caesar later uses similar methods at Alesia, receives universal praise. Sulla invented the techniques decades earlier. Fourth, tactical flexibility, moving reserves rapidly. Sulla personally crossing battlefield to reinforce threatened flanks, reading enemy intentions and countering before they develop. Fifth, psychological warfare, keeping soldiers busy with digging to maintain discipline and tire them for battle. Laughing at enemy chariots to break their terror effect. Sulla's speech at Orchomenus rallying panicked troops, but numbers tell the true story. Ancient sources report battle casualties, even accounting for propaganda and exaggeration. The scale remains clear. Chaeronea, 70,000 to 120,000 Pontic soldiers at start. 10,000 escape. Casualties somewhere between 60,000 and 110,000. Against roughly 15,000 Romans who suffered disputed but certainly low losses. Orchomenus, 90,000 Pontic troops, 15,000 killed in trenches on first day, army destroyed in camp assault. Most killed attempting escape through marsh. Maybe 10,000 total survivors. The speed of collapse, that's the key. 2 battles in one campaign season, each lasting days, not weeks. Complete destruction of Pontic power in Europe. 70,000 soldiers or more eliminated at Chaeronea in a single afternoon, followed months later by another 90,000 destroyed at Orchomenus. The combined Pontic casualties exceed the total forces available to most ancient kingdoms. Mithridates raised these armies from 7 nations, equipped them, trained them, transported them across the Hellespont into Greece, supported them by sea. Within 8 months, both armies cease to exist, the Western campaign ends. The king forced to negotiate from weakness, Rome's eastern expansion pivots on these victories. Before Chaeronea, Mithridates controls the strategic initiative. After Orchomenus, Rome dictates terms. The First Mithridatic War resolves on Roman terms despite political chaos at home. Sulla uses victory as leverage, returns to Italy, spring 83 BC, lands at Brundisium and Tarentum. Outlawed nobles and sullen supporters flock to his banner. Quintus Caecilius, Metellus Pius, Marcus Licinius, Crassus, Lucius Marcius Philippus. The civil war begins. Battle of Mount Tifata. Sulla crushes consul Norbanus. 6,000 Marian casualties against 70 Roman losses. Battle of Sacriportus. Marius the Younger loses 28,000 men. Sulla claims only 23 Roman casualties. Impossible numbers, but show combat effectiveness. Battle of Colline Gate outside Rome, 82 BC. Final victory. Sulla makes himself dictator, first man to march on Rome with army and win civil war, reforms constitution, strengthens Senate power, resigns plenary powers after reforms enacted, dies 78 BC. Natural causes, one of few Roman strongmen to die in bed. His victories at Chaeronea and Orchomenus enable everything after. Without them, he cannot return to Italy. Cannot fight civil war. Cannot become dictator. The tactical innovations he develops in Greece, the reputation for invincibility he builds against Mithridates, the veteran legions who follow him from Boeotia to Rome, all stem from that spring and autumn in 86 BC. From the 2 battles where 15,000 Romans destroyed 70,000 and then 90,000 Pontic soldiers in succession. What historians discovered later validates the ancient accounts. Trophy fragments on Isoma Hill, excavated 1991, match Plutarch's description written over 100 years after battle. Square marble base, column fragments. Location corresponds to Mount Thurium position. Second trophy, found at Orchomenus in 2004. More physical evidence. Battlefield archaeology confirms engagement locations. The narrow valley at Chaeronea, the marsh at Orchomenus. Terrain matches tactical descriptions. Ancient writers drew from Sulla's memoirs, those memoirs now lost, but archaeological evidence proves they described real locations, real tactics, real victories. The speed, that's what breaks understanding. Modern military doctrine teaches force ratios. Attackers need 3-to-1 advantage to assault fortified positions. Defenders need strong position and supply lines. Equal forces produce grinding attrition. But Sulla inverts every principle. He's outnumbered 5-to-1 at Chaeronea, outnumbered 6-to-1 at Orchomenus, yet he achieves complete victory both times. Not Pyrrhic victories with heavy losses, not tactical draws claiming success. Total annihilation of enemy forces. One-day battles deciding campaign. The why matters more than the what. Why did Pontic armies collapse so completely? Why did superior numbers fail? Several factors converge. Command structure. Archelaus shared command with Taxiles at Chaeronea. 2 commanders means split decisions. Archelaus wanted attrition warfare. Taxiles demanded immediate battle. Compromise pleased neither. Unity of command under Sulla versus divided authority under dual Pontic leadership. Troop quality. Roman legions were professionals, social war veterans, men who volunteered for spoils and glory. Pontic forces were conscripts and mercenaries. 7 nationalities, different training, different languages, different tactics, difficult to coordinate. Roman cohort system allowed flexible response. Pontic phalanx required rigid formation. When that formation broke, The army disintegrated. Logistics, Sulla's supply line through Athens and Boeotia. Short, defended. Pontic supply line across Hellespont. Long, vulnerable. Lucullus's fleet threatens it by 85 BC. Psychological edge. Romans believed in Roman invincibility. Recent string of conquests proved it. Pontic troops had mixed success, beat Bithynians and Asian levies, lost to professional Roman legions. That doubt kills armies. If you value documented ancient military history and deep tactical analysis like this, subscribe. It's the best way to support detailed historical research. Also comment which aspect of ancient warfare interests you most. This script uses primary sources including Appian's Mithridatic Wars, available in Loeb Classical Library translation, published 2023, Plutarch's Parallel Lives, from Penguin Classics edition, updated 2018, Das Tees, plus archaeological reports from the Greek Archaeological Service, published in Hesperia Journal Volume 61 1992 regarding the Chaeronea trophy excavation, and the Journal of Roman Archaeology, Volume 18 2005, covering the Orchomenus trophy discovery. Now back to the battles. The tactics deserve closer examination. Sulla's use of field fortifications represented innovation. Roman armies typically relied on superior discipline and training, built marching camps each night, used standardized formations, but rarely modified terrain before battle. Sulla changed that. At Chaeronea, he ordered entrenchments on flanks and palisades in front while perched on hills. The work served three purposes. Psychological, kept soldiers focused on tasks instead of dwelling on enemy numbers. Defensive, provided actual physical barriers against cavalry and chariots. Tactical, forced Archelaus to fight on ground modified to favor Roman strengths. At Orchomenus, Sulla doubled down, built massive trenches, 10 feet wide, protected flanks. Then sieged the enemy camp, created circumvallation, trapped Pontic army. This prefigures Caesar's siege of Alesia 50 years later. Same principles. Surround enemy, cut supplies, force surrender or suicidal breakout. Sulla likely learned it from experience at Numantia decades before, but he applied it to field battles. Not just sieges. That's the innovation. The scythed chariot problem. Ancient armies struggled with them. At Amnius River, 89 BC, they shattered Bithynian army. Psychological terror weapon. Seaman cut in half while standing. See organs hanging from blades. Watch friends shredded. Army breaks. But they require distance to build speed. Sulla denied them that. By advancing from his hill position toward Archelaus before battle fully engaged, he shortened the run-up. Chariots rolled out slowly. No momentum. No terror. Romans laughed instead of fleeing. Turned the weapon into joke. At Orchomenus, Sulla went further. Planted stakes. Physical barrier. Horses impale themselves. Chariots stick. Crews become stationary targets. The most feared weapon in Archelaus's arsenal neutralized twice by simple counter-tactics. Cavalry engagement shows Sulla's reading of battle. At Chaeronea, when Archelaus hit Roman left under Murena, standard response would be sending infantry reinforcements. Sulla sent Hortensius with cohorts, but also personally rode from right to left with cavalry. This forced Archelaus to react. When Archelaus shifted to attack weakened Roman right, Sulla anticipated, already moving back south. Arrived before Archelaus, launched attack while Pontic lines still forming. Tempo, always maintaining initiative, never letting enemy set pace. The back and forth across battlefield required physical endurance. Sulla was 48 years old at Chaeronea, middle-aged by ancient standards, but rode hard, commanded from front, rallied troops personally. Ancient military leadership meant personal courage. Soldiers needed to see commander willing to die alongside them. The numbers need contextual understanding. Ancient historians often exaggerated casualty figures, especially on enemy side, especially when drawing from victors' memoirs. Sulla's memoirs were pure propaganda, claimed 14 Roman casualties at Chaeronea, 12 after 2 returned. Impossible. Hand-to-hand combat with edged weapons. Thousands of men hacking each other for hours. Both sides must suffer losses. Modern historians estimate Roman casualties at Chaeronea closer to 1,000 to 2,000. Still remarkably low for victory, but more credible. Pontic casualties probably closer to 40,000 to 50,000 killed and captured. Not 110,000. Still catastrophic, still complete victory, just more realistic. At Orchomenus, similar adjustment, 15,000 Pontic casualties in trenches. First day becomes perhaps 8,000 to 10,000. Total destruction of Pontic army in camp assault probably killed 20,000 to 30,000 more. Added to prisoners and deserters, Total Pontic losses approach 50,000 to 60,000 from 90,000 starting force. Again, decisive victory. Again, extremely lopsided, but not fantasy numbers. Geographic context matters. Boeotia sits in central Greece, north of Athens. The region holds historical significance. Battle of Chaeronea, 338 BC. Philip of Macedon defeated combined Greek army, ended Greek independence, established Macedonian hegemony. Theban sacred band annihilated that day, 300 pairs of lovers fighting to death. Sulla erected his trophy on same plain where Greek freedom died. Symbolic. Rome replaces Macedon as master of Greece. At Orchomenus, the plain was largest in Boeotia. Ideal for cavalry, hence Archelaus' confidence. Lake Copais bordered it, marshes behind. Sulla used marsh as trap, drove broken Pontic army toward water, men drowned trying to escape. Terrain as weapon. Modern satellite imagery shows how terrain constrained battle. Valley at Chaeronea, narrow. Mountains on three sides, river through middle. Any large army cramped in that space loses maneuverability. Sulla's smaller force needed less room, could maintain formation, deploy reserves. Pontic numbers became liability in confined terrain. Mithridates' perspective, the king was 135 BC to 63 BC, called Eupator. The last great Hellenistic ruler to challenge Rome, controlled Pontus on Black Sea, expanded to Crimea, Colchis, Bosporan Kingdom, built largest eastern Mediterranean power since Alexander's successors, saw Roman tax collectors bleeding Greek cities, orchestrated Asiatic Vespers in 88 BC, ordered massacre of Romans in italics throughout Asia Minor, 80,000 to 100,000 killed in single day. One of history's first genocides, declared war on Roman oppression, styled himself liberator. The losses in Greece, catastrophe for his strategy, sent two massive armies, both destroyed, investment wasted, manpower gone, initiative lost. But he survived, kept kingdom, rebuilt, fought Second Mithridatic War 83 to 81 BC, Third Mithridatic War 75 to 63 BC, took Rome 26 years and 3 wars to finally defeat him, died 63 BC. Suicide after son's betrayal, tried poison, but immunity from taking small doses throughout life made it ineffective. Had guards stab him instead. Legacy as Rome's most persistent enemy, after Hannibal, Sulla's perspective. Victory in Greece saved his career, maybe saved Rome itself. If Mithridates conquered Greece, held Asia Minor, controlled eastern Mediterranean wealth and trade, Rome's financial base collapses. Tax revenue dries up. Military funding decreases. At same time, Sulla's political enemies control Rome. Marius and Cinna purging supporters. If Sulla fails in Greece, he cannot return. Dies in exile or killed by assassins. His victories bought time. Forced Mithridates to negotiate. Freed Sulla to address Roman civil conflict. His march on Rome in 83 BC. His civil war. His dictatorship. All built on reputation earned at Chaeronea and Orchomenus. The soldiers who followed him against other Romans were same veterans who crushed Pontic armies in Greece. They believed in his invincibility because they witnessed it personally. Archelaus' perspective often overlooked. He was a competent general, successfully transported army to Greece, secured Athens, held Piraeus against Sulla's siege for months, judged terrain correctly, wanted attrition warfare against numerically inferior Romans, but forced into pitched battle by Taxiles. After 2 crushing defeats, chose pragmatic response, opened negotiations, eventually defected to Rome. Sulla granted him estates and honors, Roman citizenship. Archelaus lived out life in Italy, survived where many didn't. His descendant was father of Herod Archelaus, ethnarch of Samaria and Judea. Military legacy mixed, lost 2 decisive battles, but preserved own life and achieved comfortable retirement. More than most defeated generals. The broader implications: First Mithridatic War ended 85 BC at Dardanus, but war resumed twice more. Second Mithridatic War, 83 to 81 BC, when Marina attacked Mithridates without provocation. Marina lost, Mithridates won, Battle of Halys, 82 BC. Peace restored. Third Mithridatic War, 75 to 63 BC. Longest and bloodiest, Lucullus commanded initially. Won victories at Cyzicus and Cabira, drove Mithridates to Armenia. Then Pompey the Great took command 66 BC, finally defeated Mithridates decisively. Battle of Lycus. Mithridates fled to Crimea, planned new rebellion. His own son Pharnaces betrayed him. Army mutinied. Mithridates committed suicide. 3 wars, 26 years, dozens of battles, hundreds of thousands dead. All because one king refused Roman domination. Rome's eastern expansion depended on defeating Mithridates. Before First Mithridatic War, Rome controlled Western Asia Minor coastal regions, province of Asia, province of Cilicia. Client states inland. After Third Mithridatic War, Rome controlled all Anatolia, Syria, Judea, eventually Egypt. Eastern Mediterranean became Roman lake, trade routes secured, tax revenues massive. Wealth from East funded Roman military machine for centuries, none possible without defeating Mithridates first, and defeating Mithridates started with destroying his armies in Greece. At Chaeronea, at Orchomenus. Technological factors. Roman gladius versus Pontic pike. In close terrain, pike loses advantages, requires room to level weapon, requires formation integrity. When formation breaks, pike becomes liability, too long for close combat. Gladius designed for stabbing at short range, under 3 feet long, thrusts between ribs, slashes at close quarters. In confined valley at Chaeronea or in camp at Orchomenus, gladius superior, Roman pilum, heavy javelin. Designed to bend on impact, sticks in shield, drags, shield down, exposes enemy, or thrown in massed volley at charging chariots and cavalry. Creates barrier of flying death, Roman armor, larica hamata, chainmail, or scale armor. Better protection than most Pontic troops wore. Some elite units had superior equipment, but bulk of Pontic forces wore lighter protection. Trade-off between mobility and defense. Romans chose heavier armor. Confidence in superior training and stamina to handle weight. Training differences. Roman legion trained daily. Sword practice against post, marching under full weight pack, building camps, digging trenches, fighting in formation. Maintaining line. Professional military culture. Soldiers volunteered for 20-year terms. Fought dozens of battles across careers. Understood tactics intuitively. Executed maneuvers without detailed orders. Pontic forces were mixture. Some professional soldiers, many conscripts, some mercenaries, variable training standards, languages barrier in multinational army, orders filtered through interpreters, slowed reaction time, created confusion under pressure. Morale factors. Roman soldiers knew they fought for survival. Defeat meant death. No mercy for outnumbered force that lost. Pontic soldiers fought for king far away, for cause that mattered less personally. When battle turned against them, incentive to flee increased. Every man for himself. Roman centurion system maintained discipline. Centurions positioned throughout legion. Carried vine staff, beat cowards, rallied waverers, lead by example. Died in front ranks alongside men. Junior leadership mattered. Pontic army lacked equivalent system. Officers commanded from rear. Less personal connection to troops. When panic spread, nothing stopped it. Weather played role. Spring in Boeotia, likely hot days in valley, heavy armor and heat, exertion of battle, Romans trained in full gear regularly, conditioned for it, Pontic troops perhaps less so. At Orchomenus, autumn heat, still warm. Possibly humid near marsh. Environmental factors favor acclimatized troops. Weather also affected timeline. Sulla had to win before winter, could not maintain army in field indefinitely. Supply problems, political pressure from Rome. Archelaus knew this. His attrition strategy aimed to drag fighting into winter, force Sulla to withdraw. Taxale's insistence on immediate battle threw away that advantage. Medical factors. Ancient battles produced horrific wounds. Edged weapons. Crush injuries. No antibiotics. Many survived initial battle only to die from infected wounds days later. Reported casualty figures include immediate deaths. Actual death toll higher once wounded succumbed. Medical care rudimentary. Roman army had better system. Doctors attached to legions. Field hospitals and camps. Some knowledge of wound treatment. Pontic forces less organized. Higher mortality among wounded. Survivors often crippled. Lost to future military service. Political ramifications in Rome. Sulla's victories embarrassed his enemies. They sent Flaccus to replace him. Take credit. Flaccus bungled it. Murdered by Fimbria. Fimbria won battles, but could not force peace. Sulla achieved what official Roman government could not. Negotiated settlement, returned Mithridates' conquests to Rome, maintained eastern provinces, all while declared public enemy. Made Senate look incompetent. When Sulla returned to Italy, senators faced choice: oppose dictator who won impossible victories or embrace him. Many chose latter. Sulla's legend protected him, made civil war winnable, long-term consequences. Roman military adopted Sulla's innovations. Field fortifications became standard, pre-battle terrain modification. Using landscape as force multiplier, Caesar perfected these techniques. Alesia 52, BC, complete circumvallation. Trapping 100,000 Gauls, counter-circumvallation against relief army, double walls, starved Vercingetorix into surrender, direct lineage from Sulla's methods, later Byzantine military manuals, Medieval siege warfare. Renaissance fortifications. All owed debt to Sulla's battlefield earthworks at Chaeronea and Orchomenus. Strategic lessons. Numerical superiority means nothing without effective employment. 70,000 poorly coordinated troops lose to 15,000 disciplined veterans. Terrain selection matters more than raw numbers. Force enemy to fight where your strengths negate their advantages. Psychological warfare wins battles before first blow. Laughing at enemy terror weapons destroys their effect. Leadership from front inspires troops. Sulla, personally rallying soldiers at Orchomenus, saved battle. Flexibility trumps rigid doctrine. Sulla moved reserves rapidly, repositioned forces mid-battle, adapted to changing situations. Modern doctrine calls it OODA loop, observe, orient, decide act, faster cycle wins. Sulla mastered it 2,000 years before Boyd formulated theory. The artifacts tell stories, trophy fragments found at both sites, marble bases, column pieces. Ancient authors describe them, archaeological evidence confirms descriptions. Coins minted by Sulla showing trophies, physical propaganda. Every coin reminded Romans of victories, of general who saved republic. Battlefield archaeology at Chaeronea. Metal detector, surveys found bronze arrowheads, spear points. Pilum fragments, concentrated in valley where battle occurred. Distribution pattern matches, ancient accounts. At Orchomenus, similar finds, plus organic remains in marsh. Bone fragments, could be battle casualties, hard to prove definitively. But suggestive, 86 BC, 2 battles, 6 months apart, changed Mediterranean world. Before Chaeronea, Mithridates threatened Roman control of East. After Orchomenus, Rome dictated terms. The speed still stuns. Complete reversal of strategic situation in single campaign season. 15,000 Romans destroyed over 150,000 Pontic soldiers total across both battles, even using conservative estimates. The ratio defies probability. Yet evidence confirms it happened. Ancient authors, archaeological remains, geographic logic, everything checks out. In 2004, construction crew near modern Orchomenus uncovered mass burial, hundreds of skeletons. Hastily interred, no grave goods. Analysis dated them to late 2nd or 1st century BC. Trauma patterns, consistent with edged weapon wounds. Many skeletons showed defensive injuries. Arms raised, cut marks on forearms. Signs of fleeing victims struck from behind. Skulls crushed by heavy impacts. The burial pit sits near ancient marsh, described by Plutarch, where Pontic soldiers drowned escaping Roman pursuit. Physical evidence of massacre. Not written by victors. Bodies in ground, truth preserved in bones.